we are just wrapping up week three already. Isn't that crazy? And so we are going to hop on the scales, do our weigh-ins, see how you guys did, see if the leaderboard gets shaken up or if it stays the same or if anybody's making any moves. And in 13th place, down 1 pound this week, 5.4 total, 3.67%, Corey.
Yay!
In 12th place, down 2.6 pounds this week, 9 pounds overall, 4.51%, Kia. In 11th place, down 0.6 this week, a total of 7 pounds, 4.66%, Catherine. In 10th place, down 3.8 pounds this week, a total of 11.4 pounds, 4.89%, Heather C. In 9th place, down 0.4 this week, a total of 10.6 pounds overall, 4.97%, Adesua. In 8th place, down 1.1 this week, 8.1 total, 5.03%, Pam. In 7th place, down 2 pounds this week, a total of 13.8 pounds, 5.19%, Heather N. In 6th place, down 0.6 this week, 9.8 total, 5.2%, Myrna. So I don't know if you ladies caught that. 6 and 7% is being separated by 0.1%. Micro percentage. In 5th place, down 3.6 pounds this week, a grand total of 8.2 pounds, 5.41%, April. In 4th place, down 2 pounds this week, a total of 12.6 pounds altogether, 5.77%, Afia. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but the 3 of our men have somehow, all 3 of them have found themselves at the top of the leaderboard, ladies. I'm like, how did this happen? In 3rd place, down 5.1 pounds this week, 16.5 pounds in the past 3 weeks, 6.89%, Zach. Zach, dude, like you were literally in the very bottom. And then you launched yourself into 3rd place this week. Congratulations. Like, that's amazing.
Woohoo.
In 2nd place, down 3.6 pounds this week, 21.4 pounds in the past 3 weeks, 9.4%. The birthday man, Mr. Ken.
Wow.
And in 1st place, losing 6.4 pounds this week, a grand total in the past 3 weeks of 24.4 pounds, 9.72%, Jerry. And so 0.3% is all that separates 1st and 2nd place. 0.3%.
Wow.
This week, you guys lost 32.8 pounds. In the past 3 weeks, the entire cast, in just 3 weeks, 158.2 pounds. Tonight, we're going to be talking about triggers. Triggers. We all have these. They're amazingly wonderful little things that cause us to get off plan and that trigger us to go eat or drink. Or in some cases, us fluffy people can have triggers that make us not eat. Like stepping on the scale, it not telling us what we want. And then we have this trigger that we're just going to now cut out our carbs or cut out the sugar or cut out the fruit. How many of you have ever not eaten enough food to try to lose weight or to try to make up for either you wanted to lose weight quicker or you knew you went overboard. So then the next day you kind of starved yourself a little bit to make up for it. Anybody ever done this? I can put both hands up. And for each one of you, these are going to be personal to you because each and every one of you have your own triggers that trigger you to eat. And we live in a society, we live in a world where we use food to self-medicate. We use food to cope. We use food to celebrate. There can be all different kinds of triggers, not just bad. And so emotional eating is huge. And I know most of us on here have struggled with emotional eating. And I'm not just talking about bad emotions. I'm talking about all emotions. And like for me, part of the reason I got to 288 pounds is because I ate when I was excited. I ate when I was happy. I ate when something really good happened at work. I ate when I was stressed. I ate when I was mad. I ate when I was frustrated. I ate during all the emotions, not just the sad ones. Something good happened at work. I was like, yes, let's get pizza. Let's go get steak. Let's do whatever. And so, what are your triggers? And this week, you're going to have some homework around this because you're going to be going in and you're going to be looking at your behavior and you're going to be going in like a detective would. And you're going to be looking for what are the areas that trigger you to want to eat or to not eat, because you realize both are a problem. Both of those are a problem. Eating too much and not eating enough oftentimes go together, but they're both a problem. And so a lot of us that have been conditioned to emotionally eat, it started when we were young. Some of us had parents who told us we couldn't leave the table until our plate was empty. Anybody have parents that told you that? You can't leave the table unless your plate's empty. And so we overfilled ourselves, we trained ourselves, and still to this day, we feel like we're doing something wrong if we don't finish our plate. My husband, he used to feel like he was doing something wrong if he didn't finish his plate and my plate and the kids' plates. Because he learned that it was wasting food and he needed to be financially responsible. And so he would like overeat everybody's food at the table. Some of you learned early on that if you won your baseball game, what happened? Yay, you won the game. Let's go get ice cream. Some of you learned as a young kid that when it's a hard day, when mom and dad have a hard day and they just don't feel like cooking. For me, it was Little Caesars. Pizza. I grew up poor, man. It was the cheapest pizza around. You could get like they came in like these paper long things and you could get the crazy bread. And anyway, so I learned that when it was a hectic, stressful day, I wasn't going to cook. I was going to check out and we were just going to get takeout. When I was sad, I learned how to emotionally eat. When someone was a jerk to me, when holidays were a huge trigger for me. Holidays for me were all about presents and food. A lot of us are fighting a habit, this emotional eating, these connections with food that some of us have had for decades. But I'm telling you, if you want to get to your goal and you want to stay there, we have to develop a healthy relationship with food. We've got to develop, we cannot, and let me ask you, when we try to self-medicate with food, when we try to put a Band-Aid on the problem, when we try to fill the void with food, does it really fill the void? Does it really fix the problem? It actually creates another problem. You ever thought about that? When we try to self-medicate with food, it creates another problem. It creates shame. It creates frustration. And it's like this just cesspool of crap, caca. And so triggers can be driving. When I used to get in the car, I would immediately think about where I could drive through, whether it was Starbucks, whether it was Taco Bell, whether it was, the Krispy Kreme hot sign, freaking devil thing, just stares at you, calls your name, walking through the mall, all the smells of the food court. Holidays, huge trigger. Traveling, oh my goodness, traveling was a huge trigger. And I give my hats off to some of you that are traveling 3 weeks into this program. Like, awesome job, because we just started. And some of you were just like, no, we have this trip. Like, again, you fit life into your goals. You didn't stop life because you have goals. And I freaking love that. But for a lot of us, traveling can be a trigger. Nighttime. Anyone have a nighttime trigger? You're good all day long. Like, I can be good from 8 to 8, but somewhere around 8 o'clock, there's this broad that come and inhabits my body. And like, she's the chick that just forces my car into the Taco Bell drive-thru. I don't even know how it got there. Because nighttime used to be a trigger for me. I could go all day and stay on plan. Nighttime came, oatmeal cream pies, heated up in the microwave with vanilla ice cream, with magic shell. Oh. So nighttime, stress can be a trigger. For some of you, the weekends can be a trigger. Work, for some of you, can be a trigger. Finances can be a trigger. Used to be one of my triggers. Being alone can be one of your triggers. And so I'm just giving you some examples of what some of mine were, because sometimes it can help you think of what some of yours might be by hearing somebody else's. But we've got to start recognizing what triggers us. If we don't recognize it, we can't make a plan to combat it. See, once I knew that loneliness was a trigger for me, then it was like, okay, when my husband goes out of town, I would make a plan with the kids. Let's go to the park. Let's go hiking. I would make a plan to do things that didn't evolve around food. First step is recognizing what your triggers are. And once you become aware of it, then you start recognizing. You'll have something happen at work and you'll have that thing rise up. And anytime you want to just eat or drink something, after something happens, that's a trigger. It triggers you to want to eat. It triggers you to want to drink. And I had a whole list of triggers. So once you recognize the trigger, that's step one. Step two, because here's the thing, you're never going to get rid of the trigger, because triggers most often are triggered by somebody or something else. I was never going to get rid of holidays. They weren't going anywhere. I was never going to turn my husband into somebody he's not, which is a very gentle, I love my husband to death. He's my most favorite person on the planet, but he's a very fiery, passionate, outspoken dude. And I was never going to turn him into a woman. He was always going to have an opinion. And as long as I wanted him to talk to me just like this, all the 100% of the time, and anytime he raised his voice a little bit, I wanted to eat something. Because yelling is one of my triggers. I grew up in a home where my parents yelled and cussed and threw things at each other and threatened divorce every other day. So for me, my husband even raising his voice a little bit was like, don't yell at me. It was a huge trigger. So I can either expect my husband to be perfect, or I can say, what will I do if this happens again? And my husband doesn't even yell. We're not yellers. What can I do when there's another party? What can I do when I have a bad day in the office and I feel triggered to eat? What will I do when my kids frustrate me? But I just want to know, after you're hearing this this week, what are some of your major triggers?
Past season, this is the one thing that I was like, I don't really think I have triggers, but I struggled this week. And so I think I do have triggers. And I don't think it's necessarily the triggers of running to eat food as much as it is to deprive myself of food. So I think one of the major triggers that you all got to witness for the last 7 days was me having a disagreement with my scale. And for whatever reason, even though I knew I was doing everything right, I cried about it. And I had gained, I think at the peak of the gain, I was like 2 pounds up, and I had this feeling of like, I'm going to come to today and I'm going to be up a pound and then the world's going to judge me. And so literally I went through the gambit of, do I stop eating carbs? Do I stop eating? And then I had an event that night too. The night that I let it set in, I confessed it. It was like I had an event and I had ordered appetizers, and I was kind of like, at this stage, we could just say F it all. If we're going to go up, we're going to go up. We're going to burn in flames, So it's just kind of like the irrational, bad relationship with food, and I think and I can, as you were speaking, I was thinking of like other times that this has happened, like when I've been on past diets or different things, and it's like, it's a very stressful day, or I'm just busy. I spend probably about 4 hours a day on the road. When I wanted to go just drive through something today, because I was genuinely hungry, and I had packed all the food I could pack today. And I was just, it was, okay, stop. You don't need to go to the drive-through. You're going to be home in 30 minutes. You're not going to die. There's starving children in Africa, and you can make it home and cook your food and turn off your camera and eat it real fast. You're going to be okay. And guess what, guys? I'm still alive.
Entertainment is a trigger for me. I live in Houston, very diverse city. So a thing that me and my husband had was trying out different places and trying food. And that's something that was an activity and it was fun. Also, as I've been doing the meal prepping and making food, I realized that when I feel sad, I want to eat. And another one is parties. I really get the urge that I want to drink, and I need to do some reflection there. Why is it that I believe that I need a drink to have fun?
My trigger, and I know it well. The biggest one the challenge that I have at this point is family gatherings. And so each week on Fridays and Saturdays, we get together with my family, and most of the time we eat. And so, now it's kind of changing some of those things up, and it's been a change for all of them too, because we always kept junk food in the house. So as our family came to visit, there was just always junk food. They could get basically whatever they want, they could eat it, but we're just not bringing that into the house. The other thing too is on nights where everybody wants to go out to eat. So I found myself on Saturday struggling a little bit because we were all going to go out to dinner. Well, we went out to a Mexican restaurant, and I was trying to say, do you put any oil in with the meat when you cook it? And I was trying to get that point across, and I'm just like, oh dear Lord, she didn't understand me. She didn't understand what I was trying to ask. So I thought, oh no. So I would say that right now, that's my biggest challenge.
Triggers for me is when I'm in pain, because if my body's hurting, I can have an ice cream. My body hurts, I can, whatever it is. And I'm just coming off the injury, and that's part of how all of this weight got packed on. If I get bored, if I don't have enough to do, I'm not feeling well, my body hurts, so I can't do a lot, so I get bored. That it's just a vicious circle. Or if I am feeling good and I overdo on what I think I should do and don't leave time to prep healthy food to nourish myself, then I want the quick fix because I'm exhausted. I overextended myself. So those triggers are all, for me, they're all about planning. I'm not too amped up about it. I'm on vacation right now and all my food is prepped and in containers. So I just get them all out, put them in the mini cooler, and I can eat whatever I want out of that cooler. And when it's gone, I'm done. So this travel is actually better than home so far. We'll see how it goes.
So a lot of my triggers were actually very similar to yours, Carmen. And I feel like over the past year, I have worked on a few of them, but over the last 2 weeks, I've identified some new ones. Like the guilt of not finishing the food on my plate, that one I've worked on over the past like 2 years. So I'm not so bad at that one anymore, because I've realized that I would rather put it in the trash or save it for later than eat it when I'm not hungry. It's not good for my body. The Starbucks. I mean, I had a serious Starbucks addiction. I have not had a Starbucks in 3 weeks. And that is, you guys have no idea how amazing that is. My wallet loves it. So that's been good. But the nighttime snacking, actually, before I started this program, it was candy bars, it was ice cream bars, just, chips. At night, my husband and I would grab snacks and get in bed and watch TV or something. So we haven't been doing that anymore. One night I was hungry and I still had time and I had some grapes and they were amazing. It was perfect. So the new triggers I found is just not being prepared, not planning, like meal planning or having food prepped or having like ideas of what I'm going to be having. So I just have a bunch of food and no plans. And it kind of panics me because then I have too many options. I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of get into trouble. So I'm working on being more structured, really having structure in my life. I feel it's chaos when I don't have plans. And I'm not normally a planning person, but this is actually helping me with that because I want to be someone who has a plan, who has structure.
I have a lot of triggers and several of you have kind of hit on a lot of them, but a couple that I heard travel, right? So that's a big one. I think accomplishments and weight loss is actually a trigger for me. And it's interesting because I like totally fell into this trigger today. Like when I lose weight and I start feeling good, I feel like I deserve to eat. Like 100%. Like I literally have on an outfit that looked completely different 2 weeks ago. Walked past the mirror today and then made a really, really bad choice. But I was like, oh, I look good. I'm looking good. Oh yeah, and then I made a bad choice intentionally. So for me, it's like really thinking about the long game and thinking about it is, although we have these 5-pound increments and I made my vision board with 5-pound increments, this is why none of my diets have succeeded, because as soon as my clothes start feeling good, even though they're fluffy girl clothes, I'm like, oh, I got room, I can eat. And then I fall off the wagon hard. So weight loss and accomplishments are definitely a trigger for me. And then work is 100% a trigger for me. I was talking to Aisha a couple weeks ago on a Saturday and was working and didn't realize that I like ended up eating the whole tub of hummus. Like, not just my little blue container, but the whole tub. And it's like, and she's like, work is your trigger. And I'm like, really? Yeah, work is my trigger. And the other thing that is my trigger, I think, this is gonna sound horrible, but I've always been, for like 25 years, I've been in sales. So whining and dining and going out to dinners with clients. And so you get used to that environment, you get used to those habits. And so for me, that's a trigger, and being able to go to a very, very, very expensive restaurant, order my wine, order something ridiculously priced, sit there and do my work. And that is a trigger because then I keep ordering. So I have a lot of, I need some help because I have a lot of triggers.
Wow. I don't have all of the same as everybody else, but I do have a lot. I could do like a top 5 and go from the bottom, but I'm just going to go to the top. And the biggest one is, and I had to fight this one today in the car. I'm really trying hard to get into the habit of eating earlier in the day. And it's been my hardest habit to start. I mean, it's 3 weeks in and it's what time is it right now? I don't know. And I still have to do my Shakeology and 2 fruits and a teaspoon. So today I had a deadline of running to the post office, and I grabbed my things and went to the car, and all I had all day long was a bar. And it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I took a nap. And I'm really excited that this happened because I stopped myself and I turned around and I went, oh, what do I have that I can just grab and take with me? And dadgum, I said I wasn't going to cry. My husband did some sous chefing for me day before yesterday, and he had cut up all my fruits and vegetables. And I just grabbed my purple container and threw as many strawberries as would fit in it and a water. Poured some water out of my gallon jug and out the door I went. And it was probably not the sanitariest snacking I ever did because I was eating those strawberries with my fingers. But I did it. So I'm already working on my triggers now. If I thank you. Another one is family get-togethers. Yesterday, our daughter called from Indianapolis and said, I'm really sad. Come spend the day with me. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go spend the day with you. And I'll bring the dog and you can keep him. So we got there at lunchtime, went to a really good Greek restaurant. And I sat there and ordered the hummus and the vegetable plate, but I didn't touch it. And I sent most of it home with her. And then as soon as we left the restaurant, I said, okay, now can we go to your house and cook the food that I brought so that I can eat? And that's what we did. So I'm working on it. And I did sneak one bite of my husband's lamb shank because holy cow, that looked good. But I still had some protein left in the day, so I did it. The third one is up late at night when he goes to bed early. If I'm watching a movie, I want something to munch on. And it's not even a popcorn thing. Well, I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's Doritos. I don't have any in my house right now, but I will eat Doritos with a Chewy's jalapeno ranch. I will eat it with peanut butter. I will eat it with nothing. I will eat it with Cheese Whiz. I have lived entire days of my life on Doritos. If I was getting over being sick and I didn't feel like eating, I would eat Doritos and drink a Coca-Cola. I don't know how many days I've done that, but I know how many more days I'm going to do it. None.
Carmen, my thing is what's already been spoken is you already know this. I am an ultimate rewarder. I won't just reward you once for something. I'll think about it again and I'll reward you again. But the thing is, I go with them to reward them. And it's never anything that I should be doing. And frankly, it's something I kind of realized early on in this process it's something that's been inherent in my family, and also feeling guilty, just like your husband. Feeling very guilty if I didn't finish the food on my plate because I couldn't get my dessert if I didn't do that. So the other rewards, right? So just using food as a reward all the way around. I guess being trained like a dog. I don't know. It's just a lot of the feelings and emotions I've been working through, processing this. And then the other big trigger is not being prepared. And that's one that's already been spoken at. So if we don't have the food, I'm not going to place April or our family in an inconvenience. I'm just going to go pick something up. And that's where having money and not being sensible is a really bad thing. People always think money solves everything. Money can create problems. Whenever I decide I'm going to go get something just because I can, right? And so that's not always the right answer. Instead of taking the harder road, and that's what I'm really, really going to be digging into myself these next few weeks.
I would have said I didn't have any triggers before this week. But this week, I will say I have a lot of triggers. Yeah, it's a lot of, I guess it's really like tonight I was going to is birthday, celebration. I think people have talked about that before, kind of really feeling like you're not really celebrating if you're not like really indulging. And so that's probably is my biggest trigger. I would also say just not being prepared is a huge one. If you don't prepare for what you're going to eat for the day, then you'll just like start eating whatever, and you won't stick to plan. So those are probably my biggest. It's like you're not celebrating if you're not indulging, and yeah. And I'm a big celebrator. I really like to celebrate. I like to celebrate birthdays, especially.
I guess my triggers tend to be I eat when I'm stressed. If I have too much to do, sometimes I will eat to power through, or I will eat instead of doing all the things. So that's one thing. I like to eat, or I want to eat when I'm driving home from someplace late at night, like if I go to a friend's house or go to a late movie or some kind of event. In fact, I was at an event on Friday night, and it was like Pavlovian, I just felt it as I was driving in the car, and I'm like, oh, I know where the McDonald's is, and I know which one's open till midnight, all that. And also like when I, late night movies, and sometimes I have to work late at night, and having a little something to eat has helped a lot. And boredom is part of it, being alone is part of it, birthday parties, especially like children's birthday parties.
Dude, what aren't triggers, I guess, is funny for me. I honestly, until I listened to all of you guys, it's kind of cool being last because I can hear all the things. But boredom is probably a trigger for me. I'm a pretty busy person. I like to be very busy. And then when I have some downtime, like I think that's why I purposely don't have a whole lot of downtime, because I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Like if I'm that's why last week I started with like 2 workouts, because I was like, I don't want to watch TV for 2 hours, or I don't want to, what am I going to do? Just, this is dumb. Might as well go do something else. And so boredom for sure. I tell you, being competitive, I don't like losing anything, and that's kind of a trigger too, because I'm like, there's a fear of failure, fear of missing out, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I don't make excuses, and I don't take them. So it's yeah, and socially, that's the big thing for me. So with my family, kind of like what Pam was saying, we're a very close knit group. I have 2 adult children who are married, and we do family dinners 2 to 3 times a week, and that's a trigger. Like Afia said, if I see some results, I'm like still hearing that singing in my brain, like bam, chicka, bam, bam, like dude, you're doing good. Like it's time to, whatever. But it's yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I got a lot of goofy things going on, I guess, but success, kind of like what Ken said. Like my team, when we have an amazing month, I'm in sales, same for the last 25 years. When we have an amazing month, it's all on me. It's time to have some fun.
Oh my gosh, I identify with so many of these, you guys. But one of the main ones that stuck out was the social events, like many of you have said. And a lot of us were facing those. A lot of us were dealing with those this past weekend. And one thing I realized is that many of these triggers seem like they're combinations of lots of different things working together. Like with social events, I often will feel like nervousness before going into them. Like, what are people going to think of me? So then when I get around the food, it's not only like the nervousness and my eyes are bigger than my stomach and all the food looks so good that I'll overeat, but also probably combined with the social anxiety stuff, but also the fun of all this glorious food being there, so that's a combination. And then definitely the nighttime trigger I identified with. Heather Corn, same thing. We had the same habit as you guys in our family. Zach and I would grab traditionally ice cream and hop in bed and watch TV, watch some SNL, watch a movie, something like that. And that felt like it was just an end of the day tired feeling. So it was like a reward for making it through the day, but also like a stress relief at the same time, a stress release rather. And so that was a combination of a couple things going together. And then also just the celebrating with food. That's definitely a big thing for me. Like, hey, it went great. Let's go get some cake. Let's get some ice cream again. Pizza, awesome. We had a great week. Let's do pizza. All of those. So looking at this stuff, it's really humbling, but I think it's super fascinating too, from a human perspective.
So awesome. And listen, as we continue on into week 4, it's starting to recognize these triggers. And when you start to recognize them, they start to lose their power over you. They can only have power over you when you don't know that they're there. As you recognize them, you start to be in control versus your feelings and your emotions and your past and all of these things. And so, but here's what I will say. And I love what Heather said earlier. She said, this is really challenging. Yes, it is. But if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And so in order to get a change, we have to make a change. And that is what we are doing. We are designing the life we want. You are designing the life you want to live in the way that you want to live it on your terms versus just by choice, not by chance, by design, not by default. And gosh, you know how good that feels. And do you know how blessed and amazing and productive your life is, how much your life will change in 1 year. Staying on this path of making changes, staying on the path of continuing to challenge yourself versus what 98% of the population is doing, which is running from the challenges, looking for easy street. And if you are on easy street, you are on the wrong freaking street. Don't ask for it to be easy. Ask for it to be worth it.